This week on Community Matters, we're talking about TBIs with Thomas Henson, a board member of the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina. So let's start with this group of people, this organization you belong to. What is it all about?
It's an amazing organization. I'm very proud and humbled to be associated with them. The Brain Injury Association of North Carolina was actually started in about 1982 by a group of concerned family members of traumatic brain injury survivors who recognized that there was a void in terms of resources and support for brain injury survivors and their families and their caregivers. So out of that need, the BIONC, as we refer to ourselves, the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina, was founded, and it's a nonprofit organization whose sole mission and vision is to provide resources for brain injury survivors and their families. So it's a great organization. I would encourage everyone to go look at the website. There's a ton of resources and information about TBI and caregivers and how to navigate those issues as well.
Can you give us a taste of maybe some of the services that are available to the family and, of course, the victim?
Sure. We basically have three main areas of emphasis. One is resources, and that involves resources that families and TBI survivors need to know things like how to navigate the medical system. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to navigate, especially if you have a severe brain injury. You know, a concussion, maybe not so much, because there are a lot of public awareness and materials out there in terms of what to do if you have a concussion. But if you have somebody who's had, you know, a stroke is a form of brain injury. It's not necessarily a traumatic brain injury. It's more of an acquired brain injury. But for people on the severe end of the spectrum, in terms of navigating health care, in terms of navigating what services are available once somebody is integrating back into their home, you know, people are discharged from the hospital very quickly these days.
Yes.
And you can have someone who really can't function independently, but they don't need to be in the hospital anymore because they're past the possibility that they'll die, right. So they get discharged back to home. Well, you know, that is a very difficult time for that person and their family. So my point is, BIONC has a lot of resources geared to that situation. So there's the resources element. The other piece we provide is training, not only to families, but also to government agencies, civic groups, things of that nature, on all those same issues. What is TBI? How can it be managed? What are the resources available? You know, a good example is there can be training done, for instance, for law enforcement, because when an officer encounters somebody with a TBI, and it's not apparent that person has a TBI, the TBI person can act in ways that the officer, if they're trained to know what to look for, they might handle that situation in an entirely different way. Sure. So that type of training is important, training for caregivers. So that's the second piece. Then the third piece is advocacy at the legislature. We do a lot of work with military in terms of advocating for their needs in the community, as well as just the TBI population in general. So those are really the three main pieces.
Why are you involved in all of this? I mean, if I'm not asking too personal of a question, you're very passionate about it, and you were the past chair of this organization. Why?
Well, I handled a case, and saying I handled it is probably too strong. My senior partner at the time was actually in charge. I was a couple of years out of law school and really didn't know much about what I was doing, but we represented a young man who was about my age, and he suffered a brain injury and had a very significant and catastrophic outcome. And through our efforts as his lawyer, we were able to really make a difference for him. And it may sound a little overly dramatic, but you know, at the time I had the thought that could be me. Mm-hmm. And that really just kind of lit a spark somewhere, and it just became something I thought, this is something that we can really make a difference. The other thing is I do a lot of cycling, which is kind of a side note, but obviously the head injury and concussion
Sure.
piece is a big part in cycling communities. So kind of the marriage of those two things has really led me to where I am now.
And the brain injuries, unlike the physical injuries, they're not real apparent, are they? I mean, it's difficult for people who are interacting with individuals who are suffering from traumatic brain injury to really understand. I mean, you know where I'm coming from on this. Do you get that as well? Does your organization help in that matter?
Yes, definitely. And that's part of, I think helping TBI survivors and their families navigate not only the system, quote unquote, but also just in our society and in our communities. I mean, there's a lot of need not only for TBI victims, but also just the disabled in general, to be accepted and integrated into our society in ways that are meaningful not only for them, but also in ways that are beneficial for the community. So that type of outcome is something we've been searching for a long time, and hopefully one day we'll get there. 1 minute
left. I bet you need volunteers. I bet.
Absolutely.
You'd love for people who are sitting here watching us right now to join your organization. How do they do that?
Absolutely. There's a website. It's the Brain Injury Association website. So yeah, we need volunteers. We need advocates. Most importantly, we're on a membership drive right now. We always need members. We have corporate memberships available. I'm a proud sponsor of them as well. Any way you can be involved and help us do the great work that we've been doing would be very welcomed.
Well, I thank you for taking some time. I learned a lot.
Good.
I appreciate it.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
And thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you would like to view previous episodes, please visit our website at RaleighCW.com and myrdctv.com. I'm Bill LuMaye, and thank you for watching Community Matters, and we'll see you next week.